Hello, good evening and welcome back. So good news, Professor Lockdown has decided to step down. And this isn't because his theories have been disgraced time and time again, as we will get into. No, instead it's because he has been a hypocrite, which is as good a reason as any, I suppose. It is unfortunate that he hasn't been exposed for, I wouldn't go so far as to say a fraud, but let's just say wrong, as he has been so horrifically wrong so many times in the past, and shown that he isn't above screwing over economies, ruining people's ways of life, making it very difficult for them to get by, and causing what is now estimated to be 130 million people dying of starvation, according to the UN, because of the economic downturn from the lockdowns. That he has a very narrow focus, which is fine. If you're correct that you specialize in a particular field, somebody will come to you for counsel in order to find out about your particular specialty. Then they will go to other experts in their fields with their specialties, combine them in order to get an overall picture to understand what the consequences are of any given action, and from there make an informed decision of what should be done. Unfortunately, that isn't what's happened. It's just what he says goes, so it's not his fault that the government responded the way that it did, but seeing as he gave faulty information when others were available, again, it's not his fault that his one was taken, but because he's been put in a position of which he was, and he doesn't seem to have made any attempt to correct his modelling data. It's 13 years old, according to him, 1,000 lines of code in C, and that hasn't been rectified, even though we've seen that his models have been very, very wrong in the past. Then yes, of course, he takes some blame for not being personally responsible, but unfortunately in this case, it isn't exposing him for being incredibly wrong and damagingly so, very dangerously damagingly so. So, Professor Neil Ferguson quits government role after undermining lockdown. So at least the good news is he's gone, so hopefully out of Sage that we can actually kind of get some different viewpoints, try and expose what's going on with more conversation, not less conversation, not silencing people, but exposing them and allowing the truth to be worked out. When it comes to debates, as nice as it is to get a one-up on your opponent, the idea should be to find out the truth instead of just winning a debate. And the same goes here, especially when it comes down to the lives and livelihoods, which is also lives, of tens of millions of people. It is important that you work together as a few individuals to find the truth instead of just trying to be right to push your own pet project forward, as has been the case here. So, his modelling of the virus transmission suggested 500,000 people could die without drastic action. I don't know why they said 250,000, I guess they're just trying to cover for him, but it said 500,000, and in America 2.2 million. Let's not forget that. This led Prime Minister Boris Johnson to announce on 23rd of March that he was imposing widespread curbs on daily life aimed at stopping the spread of coronavirus. And of course, Ferguson's model wasn't the only one. Sweden used a different one, and they've been fine with it. So, in a statement, Ferguson said, "I accept I made an error of judgment and took the wrong course of action. I have therefore stepped back from my involvement in SAGE, the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergency." This is because he went outside, basically. That's it. "I acted in the belief that I was immune, having tested positive for coronavirus and completely isolated myself for almost 2 weeks after developing symptoms. I deeply regret any undermining of the clear messages around the continued need for social distancing." He called the government advice on social distancing unequivocal, adding that it was there to protect all of us. So, of course, he might have realised that he was wrong, in which case it's not such a big issue. He might have had it himself, realised that the fatality rate of 4 to 7% was way off, and again, he was completely fine. Or he might have thought, well, yeah, I've had it, so I'm immune now, which is more often than not the case, but of course the World Health Organization says no. So whatever his reasoning was, he has decided to not publicize it for whatever reason. He just says that he thought he was immune. So as their analysis says, that it was the group's work in early January that alerted the world to the threat of coronavirus. It shows hundreds, if not thousands of people were likely to have been infected in Wuhan at a time when Chinese officials said there were only a few dozen cases. And it's nice if he would, keep going to say, yeah, China made it, they're covering it up, it's getting worse, we need to do something about that. And if we actually quarantine people coming in, instead of just 300 people, more than 300 people coming in, so we should have quarantined more than 300 people coming in. Funny that, instead of 67 million people in the UK. So, He said, in mid-March, the math showed the UK needed to change course or 250,000 people would die in a catastrophic epidemic. 500,000, but okay. Those calculations helped transform government policy and all lives. Helped. Not quite the phrasing I would use, but for sure. And of course we see it, for example, when they're comparing it to the UK and Italy, and they're saying, how does it compare? Well, in Italy, of course, you can get outside more. There's more sunlight, which works well. They have an older population, so they're more likely to be dying of it because they've got the underlying health conditions. It's not because you're old, it's because of the underlying conditions. So if you're an unhealthier country, then of course you're going to have more cases as well. And if you look at the regions and you go, maybe there are cultural practices here which mean people aren't so healthy. I wonder. But we can't talk about that. But nonetheless, as they say, in the UK, for example, in the week to 24th of April, the coronavirus killed, among age groups, 4 per 100,000 people under the age of 75. The vast majority of people, the vast majority of working people, the vast majority of people affected by a lockdown as well, are the least affected by the coronavirus. So, is there a problem? No, not really. 75 per 100,000 of the 75 to 84 group, and 242 per 100,000 people over 85. Life expectancy is 87, I believe. So, is that surprising? No. Would they have died of something else? Most likely. With that in mind, of dying of something else, that they do also say that people, or different countries, report it differently. And that is also very, very important in terms of saying that when they say it, and I can't believe just how blatant they are, but it is the BBC, so let's not put it past them. That they say that every country measures deaths in a different way, the UK's government's chief medical advisor Chris Whitty said at One Daily Briefing, so comparing them to each other is a largely fruitless exercise. On the face of it, Italy and the UK now do it in fairly similar ways, only including confirmed COVID-19 cases in their cumulative daily counts. But how do you confirm it? How do you confirm it? Because they like to say that it's where testing has been done and it's confirmed and it's a positive result. So, well, it isn't though, is it? Because deaths are attributed when no test has been done and they had similar symptoms, because then they get more funding. As we've seen in America, that you get funded more if they're put on a ventilator. So of course they are, because it's more money for the hospital. And profit incentives are very effective. Also why nationalised health services don't work. But enough of that. So, back to Neil Ferguson. Let's not forget about him, of course. That a little while ago, there were 6 questions raised by The Spectator, and they weren't addressed at all. But I think it's about time that we got back to them, seeing as more time has elapsed now, and it's just showing time and time again that he's full of shit, basically, and that his old 13-year-old code, to quote him, he says, I wrote the code thousands of lines of undocumented C 13 plus years ago to model flu pandemics, that maybe it's time we listen to somebody else. So, how has he been wrong before? In 2005, from bird flu, he said up to 200 million people could be killed from bird flu. And in the end, 282 people died worldwide from the disease between 2003 and 2009. From 200 million to 282. It's about 200. 1 in a million. That is phenomenally wrong. You can't really be more wrong than that. You really can't. It's like conflating a hamlet with a country, or worse. It's almost like comparing a restaurant, a large restaurant, a busy restaurant, with an entire country. That's the level that we're talking here. That is how ridiculous it is. Just 1 million times more people. That is how. I mean, even a country like Bulgaria that has about 8 million people, then it's like a large family with a country. That is the scale of magnitude of how bad it is, just to compare. So, in 2009, about swine flu, estimated a fatality rate of 0.3% to 1.5%. So, same as now then. His most likely estimate was that the mortality rate was 0.4%. Okay. He said a reasonable worst case scenario was the disease would lead to 65,000 UK deaths. Right, so how many? 457. Still way off. Way off. Getting closer though. I mean, you credit where it's due. Well done. And a death rate of just 0.026% of those infected. So he's getting closer. It's not 1 in a million, it's 1 in 100. So well done. You're getting somewhere. You've got all the way up to 1%. Well done. You're only 99% wrong now. Well done. In 2001, going back a bit, the Imperial team produced modelling on foot and mouth disease that suggests that animals in neighbouring farms should be culled, and this is where we get to him not caring about the economic impact, costing £10 billion. And this is similar to the mad cow disease, suggesting that otherwise between 50 and 150,000 people would die, of which there have been 177. He killed all the sheep, all the cows, for 177 deaths. That seems a bit overblown, really. A little bit overblown. I'm not putting a price tag on somebody's life, but £10 billion to 177 deaths. And he's gone backwards now. Well done. You've gone back to 1 in 1,000. Good job. His disease modelling for COVID-19 is basically on the computer code, and we're all thinking that he's full of shit. So, good news, he has stepped down. He has been so tremendously, emphatically incorrect in the past by such a large margin, and we're seeing that being repeated now, that it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, but fool me 4 times, at what point do you think, no, we need someone else? I mean, it doesn't help that, of course, with anything like this, that they're given a high status, as he's the director of the MRC Centre for Global Infectious Disease Analysis, but maybe that's not quite a position that he deserves to have. Maybe at this point you go, maybe not, because it seems like epidemiology is similar to stock trading, in that the vast majority of the time, tracker funds do better than top paid investment bankers on Wall Street. Really, just tracker funds, just saying, well, how are the top 50 companies doing? I'll just go with that. And you're about as likely to get a good rate as the people who get paid millions of dollars per year in bonuses. It's a similar thing, that it seems to just come down to guessing, not predictions, just guessing, just going, that sounds about right, and let me convolute it some more, put in some more figures, write some code, and then elaborate more and more, because the more complex it looks, the more I can reason that I deserve this position and I should get paid more. That's what it comes down to. But hey, maybe one of the days he'll be right, but I guess not. I look forward to it, though, if he tries to say, I've done so well in this position, and it's so important that I'm going to write a book. Goes to a publisher and says, my analysis suggests that I'm going to sell somewhere between 500,000 and 35 million copies, estimating it at 10 million. And they're going to go, no, you're probably going to sell a couple dozen, actually. I just look forward to that so much. Or another one, you could do a similar thing if, well done. So your bonus, we're estimating that your bonus this year for your payment is going to be between 500,000 and 35 million, probably about 10 million. Oh, fantastic. It's like, guess it's a paycheck. How much is my bonus? It's a tenner. But, well done. You tried. Please, if anybody anywhere can make it happen, please do that. Or a lottery, something like that. Just to try and show the sheer magnitude of how wrong he is. But I think using a restaurant compared to a country is a good idea to see just how bad he is. So good news, he's gone. So until next time, you two, have a good one.